we have been given a task, and we are performing it. And we are three. The other two, Professor Oluwabafemi, a well-known academic and writer himself, and then Professor Ahmed Yerima, also a very well-known dramatist in Nigeria. These are highly qualified people, and they are part of the advisory board. And our duty is to oversee the prize and also work with the judges, the panel of judges, to make sure that the best work emerges as winner. Well, even though I didn't study journalism or mass communication, I've always written for newspapers. For instance, even as a graduate of English, I worked on the editorial board of two Nigerian newspapers in the 90s, the Post Express and then the Independent. So even though I didn't do a degree in mass communication or journalism, I've always practiced as a reporter, as if I was writing feature articles and editorials for these two newspapers. So I never, even though I didn't end up becoming a journalist, I've always done the work of a journalist. Well, actually, what stopped me studying journalism was I developed interest in English, and I wanted to study English. In fact, my father wanted me to be a lawyer, but I didn't want to read law. But English, because I was always a voracious reader when I was in primary and secondary school, that must have influenced me and made me study English. So, but what I noticed, again, I wanted to be a teacher, especially when I got married and I knew that teaching might be my best option as a mother. So I started teaching in a secondary school, federal government colleges, and then later I graduated into teaching in the university. So writing is something I came up with just as I developed as a teacher and as I began to write too. Well, if you're writing for children, a lot of things will matter. For instance, it depends on, you decide the level you want to write for. You can write for children of 5 to 7 years, or 10 to 9, or 9 to 10, or 9 to 11. So I write mostly for children between the ages of 9 and 11. That's for Heinemann, they describe that as level 3. That's the level I write. If you write for teenagers, like 13 to 15, that is level 4. I think is the highest level for children's teachers. So the level you want to write for will determine, one, the vocabulary control. Because if you're writing for little children, you will not expect that you're going to use the same language that you use for teenagers. So that is part of what you decide. And then, of course, illustration. The younger the children you're writing for, the more you need to illustrate through your work. So writing for children, really, you have to decide the age you're writing for. That will determine a lot of things. Your vocabulary control, then the illustration, the use of language, and the number of words on a page. These things all matter. Yes, I think that the audience you write for somehow affects the way you write. I have always written for the Nigerian audience, and that is my primary audience, honestly. And that also controls the way I write. You know, let me give you an example. Some of our writers, African writers based overseas in the West, some of them tend to write for the West. So they have to write what the West wants to read. So these things matter a lot. For instance, I remember some years ago, a German who loves African literature and is also what I may describe as one of the people who like to develop African literature in Germany. He told me, Akachi, you know you can write, you're a good writer, and you can write what the West wants to read. But I told him, I'm not writing what the West wants to read. I want to write for Nigerians because this is my primary audience. But I'm sure if I write well enough, the West will also want to read what I'm writing. And that is the way I have always written. I think if the audience you're writing for will also determine the kind of thing you write. For instance, my stories are based on experiences of Nigerians and in Nigeria. So I write the kind of thing Nigerians will be familiar with.